Welcome back to you, Anzac Biscuit. We have crypto's juiciest news coming right up, and the Burj Khalifa has destroyed our Rektober once again. It's just like every single time you get a tiny bit of hope, it comes down. But of course, this is the 15-minute chart. We've done a big reversal, but this is what crypto does. I mean, it goes right back to the point, comes back, this is a retest, and it continues up. But hey, it can still crash back lower. We have no idea what's going on. But if we check it out and we scrunch it up, the trend is still our friend. We're going to go look at the higher time frames as well. If we go look at the weekly chart, you can see that we're still moving nowhere. It would have been nice to continue for October, but we have seen these things before. So this is the weekly super trend chart for Bitcoin. We saw an Ethereum-led move, which I'm going to show you right now very soon. So this is Bitcoin basically doing it. It was Ethereum that took a bit of a tumble. You can see Ethereum's chart retraced all of the move and more. This was off the back of the Ethereum Futures ETF. Do you remember how I told you it allows them to short Ethereum without owning it? But why did it go up in the first place? Well, because it increases the chance, Ethereum is not a security. There's going to be more adoption coming to it later on, but they will put their dirty little hands around it to strangle it. So this is what happens. You get basically thrashed around. I'd also like to remind you, friends, you can see in the ETH BTC chart. So the ETH BTC chart is still here grinding along. I just want to remind you, I've shown you many times, the fourth quarter of the year is usually poop for ETH BTC. It is usually poop. So this one was the bull market. But other times in history, right, usually the fourth quarter doesn't do really well at all. ETH BTC goes down. So I guess it just means Bitcoin gets some sort of bid. That's where it basically pumps up the balloon, and then they start to distribute this over the new year. So I guess we're going to wait and see how that plays out. And there's also a high chance that they don't even go in Ethereum. I know this is like, whoa, this is controversial. What have I been telling you? Ethereum is a blue chip, just like Bitcoin. The stonk marketers, the furus, the frauds, especially in crypto, okay, they are the ones that are all stacked in Bitcoin and Ethereum. They don't have any altcoins. That's how we know altcoins, as garbage as they look right now, they're like, bleh, they're never going to go up ever. Yes, that's what you want to see. You want to be with the absolute garbage vomit fest, and that's where we are. People think, oh, altcoins never coming back. Everybody generally thinks. They think the market is going to let them go like 10x on side in Bitcoin and Ethereum and then stop, and then they're all going to rotate their money into altcoins for 100x. And then that totals to 1,000x return. They honestly think that's going to happen. That's not going to happen. All right. How do I know this? We learned from the previous cycle. In the previous cycle, I made many videos on this that you like, subscribe, press the belly button and all to, and shock that algorithm, family friendly show. In the previous cycle, the people did not wait for Bitcoin and Ethereum to go up. They went straight into meme coins. They went straight into the garbage instantly. They did not go and buy like Litecoin. They didn't even buy ChainLINK. They were not going up and beating them. People went straight for the garbage. That's the market learning. It learns with each cycle. They don't just let you go do this repeatable pattern and this edge. That's how I know a lot of people are going to get absolutely monstrously wrecked in the next cycle. How do I know that? It's because they only made their money one way, in a certain method of 2021, and they're going to repeat that, and it's not going to work. I bet my balls, I bet all three balls and my kidneys on it, that they're going to try to do it, and it's not going to work again, friends. This is exactly, if you've been trading markets, you know this thing, but when you're an investor or an investee, you know that the markets change so slowly, but they're too scared to adapt because they don't know that it's going to work again, and most of the time it doesn't. 99.9% of the time it doesn't. And when I mean it doesn't work, I mean the pattern general direction might work, but they're expecting 100x. They might only get like 6x, 7x, and then they're still holding on, and then it just round trips. You see what I mean? And then people will look back on CoinFashions Direct and go, wow, you were up 7.2 times your money. You're a greedy idiot. You should have gotten out. But we all know, like, you don't get out under your target, okay? Just because, like, okay, you got $1 million house, oh, someone offers you $1 million or $959,000. You're like, I'm not getting it. It's worth $1 million. And then maybe a year later, it's down 800,000. People say, oh, you're greedy. You can't think of it like that. If it doesn't hit your fair value, you're not meant to take it unless you really know the future. But how many people really know the future? So this is ChainLINK's weekly chart. It did close above the week, but it still flipped green. I went back to history, and there was a period in time where it did do something very similar. This was actually back in 2019, which is funny enough. This is also the year before the Bitcoin halving. ChainLINK poked above the level, and then it just had these 3 weeks where it just slides back and then it continues up. I don't know if it's going to happen again. We don't really know, friends. Everything seems like a curse. Nothing seems to work. The whole industry is a scam. And remember, why do I call the industry a scam? It's not because of the technology or anything. It's because I know 100% convicted there are going to be diminishing gains in the next cycle. I know this. Why? It's happened 3 cycles in a row. So with these extreme diminishing gains and all this pain and turmoil we're going through, everybody expects 100x. But I want you to know something. This is the sad part. You know they expected 100x in the previous cycle, right? With Bitcoin. Right here. People expected on average with altcoins 100x. They did not get that. They got about 20 to 30x. It was actually, the real number is like 14x. They got 14 on average. But there's some altcoins that did like 20x. So you see that? They divide it by 5. Diminishing. Now what I've noticed in this cycle, people are once again expecting a 50 to 100x, and they've dropped it a bit. Have you noticed how every single cycle people have these targets and then you get absolutely crushed with the reality? You get 80% lower. Sometimes 90%. Sometimes it's minus 66%. So basically whatever the number is, divided by 3, that's your best case. So if people are expecting 50 to 100x, right? You just divide, say, 75 in the middle, divided by 3, they're going to get a 25x top tick. And you might think, oh, I'll get out 25x. No. Did you buy the exact bottom? You're not going to sell the exact top. By the time things reverse, they're down 60 to 70% when they confirm a turn. So what does that mean? It means if it goes up here, right, the next candle, so you're like, okay, we might be at 200K by the end of the year. That's what everyone's expecting. But in the next 2 to 3 months, that move back down in Bitcoin means 66 to 75% down in altcoins. So I know these are rough numbers, but you got to get used to them. If this happens, it's wrecked town. So everybody top tick the 25x, but actually you're only going to get actually from your altcoins a 10. You might think that's absolutely ludicrous. That's stupid. Yeah, well, I don't make the rules, friends. It's all in the charts. It's showing us. We know Metcalfe's law. It's harder and harder to get hundreds of millions of more people in because they're already in. But we still have bullish undertones. There will be people trapped. So we're going to have time to get out. We will. The IMF, the Bug Overlords, literally released a 5-minute video on inflation. Not one single message on money supply, okay? Not of money printing, balance sheet scamming, nothing. They said inflation is all about different sectors experiencing different rounds of inflation. Biggest load of garbage. And that's why when you have these bullish undertones existing, this is why I'm looking at the Pulse chart, PulseX and Hex charts. Yeah, the price is still garbage and they're good DCA buying opportunity zones, but I know this money printing scheme is nowhere near done. They're going to keep doing it. The only issue is how many people are going to come in the next round. That's what we don't know. And we know it's going to be diminished because they're always diminished. Every single cycle's diminished. Every single one. I want to see good evidence why it won't be. With higher interest rates, with more people in, with all these other things going, you now have paper Bitcoin ETF. You now have paper Ethereum ETF. You have all these signs that things are slowing down and maturing. That is not a cause for like, oh, now we're going to start to accelerate. No, that doesn't happen like that. That's end game. You know it's end game. And Mr. Kung Fu Christmas has said, we need some good tech house music to counteract this poopy gas. You will exactly get that, my friend. Trust me, we will get another bull market. They have not learned their lesson at all. I mean, they have learned their lesson. Their lesson is how to scam. So Mr. Walker here actually posted the full video. You can share it. They're like, oh, wow, look at all this inflation. Oh, my God, petrol and houses. Wow. You can see this right now. The broad idea is that governments want to bring the price increase to a manageable, stable level. Yeah, but what they don't tell you is, okay, how'd they get there in the first place? Oh, I know. They printed money. You get $5. The inside banksters and scum, they get thousands of dollars per head. Well, it's actually way more than that. They got millions of dollars in the benefits of all very low interest rates. But you couldn't get those equally low interest rates. They got way low. They were borrowing at zero, man. They were borrowing at 0. You had to borrow at 2. So that's how much of a scam it is. And it's funny. Look at this. Look at this. She says the other big bucket is the demand side. So people wanting more goods and services that are available. Absolute hocus pocus. Now, I want to share with you this. Whenever this debate comes up, don't waste your time, friends. There's always the same people who are from the traditional finance system who say, you're all conspiracy theorists, right? Even though Bitcoin's literally went up 1,000,000x to represent this, by the way. So they'll say, oh, it's all conspiracy. You're doing it wrong. Money supply doesn't affect inflation, blah, blah, blah. Okay. We all know that's a load of lie. If it wasn't a lie, okay, how about you print heaps of money and give it to me? Okay, why don't you do that? Oh, you can't. That's right. But when it comes to them, they'll print money and give it to themselves. Now, this is the M2SL, which is the money supply chart, and it goes up and to the right over time. Now, whenever we post this, all the traditional finance ecosystem, economics dudes, they come out, and what they'll do is they do the same thing every time. What they do is they'll show a chart, they go, wait a minute, you printed in this year, and then there was like deflation. And then actually let's do it right under. Yeah, there was deflation. So you printed the money supply up here and there was deflation. And then ... And then they'll go, there's a time delay. And then you printed nothing, but there was big inflation. And then you deflated, but there was inflation. And they'll say, oh my gosh, see, there's no correlation. No correlation. They're like, oh, it's all completely random. Now, this is the biggest load of trash, garbage, hocus pocus I've ever seen. What they do is they Psyops you, okay? The CPI is fake. The numbers that they use is fake. The index is fake. There's a website all about the fake stats, shadowstats.com. All right, now shadowstats.com was made many years ago to show you how corrupt it is. I remember watching an interview with the founder. So you can see right now, right, with shadow stats, the CPI there, you can see the old CPI measure. Look how high it is. You can see that black line. See this right here? You can see the black line. That's what the real CPI is. And guess what? It was in line with the delayed inflation effect. And the red one is like their new one. So they'll do things like they'll remove higher quality items in there. Why do they do that? To hide the fact that poor people can't afford it anymore. So you can see it from this chart. Now, I don't know why this dude, Mr. James Krieger, said it. So he's an economist, economic theorist. So you can tell, these people, it's always they got paid by the government with printed money to tell them that printing money is good. Do you understand that? It's literally, I'm not even making this up. Okay, the government prints the money, then they go to the universities and they go, hey, take this printed money, your wages, and tell everybody that the system works for them. And of course, they're going to do that. They get paid, okay? So, as you can see, so Mr. James Krieger there's always someone like this. They'll post these charts and they go, well, if your theory about printing money was true, then why is this index like that? Which, I mean, it's funny. I explained it here as well. So he basically shows an index, stops at 2012, by the way. The cost of living extremely well. So rich people's inflation went up and then the CPI went like this. Now, what he's trying to imply is he goes, money supply didn't hurt the lower class. Oh my gosh, when they printed all that money. Remember, it stops at 2012, so this is even worse now. Okay, so now, I can't believe this guy doesn't even he just turns a blind eye to this. Now, what happens is, this is it, okay? The reason that top one, the blue one, the reason why it goes up so much, you want to know what this includes, friends? This includes a $2,000 dinner at a French restaurant. It includes horse stables for $280,000 in this index. It also includes the cost of a private jet, some specific jet, which is I think it was $10.8 million back then. So it's probably $20 million now. Now, here's the thing. The reason that this cost of living well index goes up so much is because all the beneficiaries of the M2 money supply printing is primarily the upper class wealthy. They are all turbo long stocks and assets. So this is actually true. So up here is wealthy people, okay? Wealthy people have 90% in assets, okay? Only 10% cash. It's true. Poor people have, not kidding, 99% cash. 99%. So you can see what happens here. The wealthy people, they are getting the money. They're getting the loans. They're getting all the beneficiary factors of the money supply printing. And they're pushing everything up. And it's making them accelerated wealth over time. But poor people aren't. That's why the real wages chart, which I've shown you before, it's the real reason why crypto is going to keep going up. Because real wages just does this over time. Like, why? Because they keep printing money. As soon as it gains long enough, like after 1 or 2 years, what happens is people, see, every time we have, this is real wages going up and down. Every time we had a spike, people feel so good, we keep turning a blind eye to the money printing. So when our real wages are gaining, then the government's like, okay, we can actually print more money and then we can distribute it again to our crony friends. And that's what happens. And then we have a negative period after that. So don't forget that wealthy people, they don't have any cash. Okay, you know, a lot of people say, oh, cash is amazing. Yeah, go look at the wealthiest people. They literally have zero respect for cash. They have between 6 to 12% in cash. Everything else, stocks, property, businesses, any other asset, all other assets. They don't keep cash. All right. So that's something to think about. Of course, as well, the people's CPI. So people always wonder, why is the CPI going up this rate? Now, that's a lot of hocus pocus as well. The people's CPI is a fake government measurement. Okay. They even removed high quality meat in their calculations and they put in low quality. So this is just one thing they've done over time. Now, why do they do that? It's because money printing has gone so out of hand. People can't afford like high quality steak from a cow anymore. You can only afford like the poopy part. And they don't want people to know that. So they're in the stats. They don't want to be able to show that in the stats. So they include the poopy part. So it still says, oh, look, it's manageable. You're only paying like, you know, whatever, like $15 a kilo, when really it's like $27 a kilo for a normal piece. But they hide this information so they can keep printing money. They just, remember, the whole game is just to psyops the population, to tell them CPI is not out of hand. This all happened from 1971. As you'll hear that famous meme, Richard Nixon leaving the gold peg, okay? So it's all from the stock market. So now that you understand, the bullish undertone for us is still there. It's still there. It's not going away. It's just that, I mentioned many times, we don't know how high the thrust is going to be. Okay, that's the thing. It's like we're all bullish, we're all long. It's just, we're thinking, okay, you know, there's a difference between Bitcoin 120K and a Bitcoin 80K. All right, because if you're wrong by this, right, you're not getting out at 80. You know, the people holding out for 120, they're not getting out at 80, friends. They're not getting out at 60 either when it comes back down. They're not getting out at 50. And what if the next stop is 30? Do you see the problem here? The problem is, if you're underexposed, that's why you got to be long. You got to be long and strong. Isn't that funny? You go, oh my God, this guy says Bitcoin's not going $500,000. Yeah, so you should be long. If this upsets you, you're not exposed enough. This is the magical fractal. It's funny, we are still due to go up towards the end of October. It'll be fascinating if this actually happens. What I've noticed is with these fractals from before, the volatility is getting less, especially on the upside. So we probably won't hit this $42,000 Bitcoin. Maybe we just hit this 34, 35,000. And we're going to wait and see what happens. But at the end of the day, don't get your hopes up too much. We pray Q4 continues because the cycle still is repeating so far. And that's all we can really go off. The bullish undertones are there. You're always going to be my friend. Make sure you like, subscribe, belly button, or I'm going to catch you in the next one.